إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا بلغ الرسالة وأدى الأمانة ونصح الأمة وجاهد في الله حق المجاهدة حتى أتاه اليقين نصلي عليه في الأولين وفي الآخرين وفي الملأ الأعلى يا رب العالمين أوصيكم ونفسي بتقوى الله عز وجل كما جاء في محكم التنزيل يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. Brothers and sisters, we begin with praise and gratitude, as that is the natural response of anyone who has recognized many countless favors that we all live and enjoy every day of our life from the rahmah that is the divine truth and that surrounds us everywhere we go. So we give an abundant praise, which is a recognition in our heart and mind. It is a word of gratitude, and it is a lifestyle of devotion. And so in that lifestyle, guidance is the most special, most precious act of mercy that has been given us. That we are now consciously connected to our purpose in serving the divine. And it's something that we should never underestimate or appreciate. It's something that is the whole essence of our reality as believers. So we have to daily review ourselves through revelation, reading the Quran, reading the example of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, looking at how I live my life, what are my priorities, what is my ultimate goals as a believer, as a servant of God. So this is what we're doing. So we ask His help while we are seeking that guidance. And we ask His forgiveness. All of us will come up short. And so the reality of guidance is that anyone who seeks it, He will make that path easy for them. And their heart will be open to the truth. Anyone who decides not to seek guidance, no one will be able to guide that person until their heart inclines, as He is the one who knows what is in the hearts. So I bear witness and declare from the essence of my soul that there is no deity and nothing should be worshipped except for God alone. And I bear witness that Muhammad, the son of Abdullah, was His final messenger and prophet He sent to mankind, confirming and completing His covenant He made with His great-grandfather Abraham through the bloodline of Ishmael. The reality is that this constant barrage, this constant media attention to all of these terrible things that are happening, that we find ourselves subject to and constantly pulled into and dragged into. It's important that we stay focused, but we cannot neglect reality, and we have to address it from a scriptural standpoint. So with this nomination of Brett Kavanaugh, we could go into the values that he represents and the things that he has supported. You can do that on your own. We should educate ourselves on those. That's not the place of the khutbah. But what we will talk about is that half of the political dynamic, some 60 some odd million people's inclination of how this country works and what's best for it, is now in a position of morality that they have no problem bringing someone like this and standing full force behind him after 4 women have accused him of assault. A type of assault that we won't even mention because we have kids in the room. And then through the whole process, he's very nonchalantly talking about the remarks that he made in drinking alcohol for the purpose of throwing up, as is known in the sick corners of college life. which are all four corners of college life. And so it's important for us as Muslims to take a look at, if Brett Kavanaugh were a Muslim practicing Islam, following Islam, would any of these problems exist? No. And it's very important for all of us to have a level of pride in divine guidance and moral perspective that we have. Islam prohibits alcohol for the very reason that someone can be a good person and not be a drunkard and be very intellectual and productive, but yet when they drink on maybe one or two occasions, it got to them and they did terrible things. The statistics of history are filled with people who just happen to drink too much on one occasion, and death and abuse and humiliation and lives were ruined over just that. But as a society, it is deemed as normal and accepted. He actually has no problem saying, I do these things, did these things, and do these things. So we have to have a level of pride and comfort in how Islam legislates and why it legislates human behavior. Because if you open the door for someone to be a responsible drinker, statistics show too many lives were messed up. Not necessarily just the life of that person. In many cases, that person's life is okay. They came out fine. But somebody else's life was ruined because that person was drinking. So the Quran says, فَاجْتَنِبُوهُ, stay away from it. Do not, I met this one brother one time and I got very confused. He said, MashaAllah, alhamdulillah, in college I was always known as the the designated driver. And I was like, why would you even be at that place and he's like trying to act like he's proud that MashaAllah, he's known to not drink, but he's hanging out with people getting drunk. So that's one aspect. The second aspect is Islam's insistence upon respecting women and seeing women as spiritual, intellectual beings, not as objects. So we're constantly being brainwashed in our society that women are free and they have rights and they're equal. But the institutionalized historical reality up until this date with the Me Too movement, if you don't know what that is, please research it, shows that the policies of our culture that are mainstream and normalized create situations in which women are consistently, time and time again, abused, and the system is against them, and they feel scared to tell somebody about it, to the extent that they would spend 30 years with some deep mental issues and deep-rooted concerns in their heart. But Islam has a system written in scriptures, in the Quran, in the Sunnah, that will protect you from these things happening. As we said, there's no drinking and things like that, which is obvious. But many people fell into these things, not drinking. The statistics show that this type of abuse that we're talking about, where a man with a woman, that mostly it's someone close, a family member, and even Islam legislated some issues regarding that. Or someone who you're close to. So, it is very important for us to appreciate our faith, and it's also important for us to appreciate the need to hear out and to believe, as a general standard, a woman who comes out with some sort of claim. Meaning, we are not saying someone is guilty just because someone said they're guilty. What we're saying is, we appreciate and we do not immediately shut down a woman who says something about someone. There's a nuance there. So, right now, your stomach is churning for the last 2 years. since this guy has become president, and basically the party that put him there is now going along with and not standing against so many things that historically are against their party's values. Historically, so many things Donald Trump is doing and saying go directly against the historical Republican values. Family values, character values, faith values that they have always held in their community. Actually, before 9/11, when they turned against Muslims as a party, Muslims were voting Republican because of these values. Am I right or wrong? But what happened to all that? Because what we're seeing is political power and the influence of those who pull the strings on the puppets of politicians is much more important than any morals or values. But it's actually the same on both sides. Because if you look back through President Obama, he was a very beautiful orator. And he talked about some very beautiful values. And he carried himself as a very upright man. But the system of our society and the corruption that is built into it was functioning at full steam in so many ways. And so you just weren't knowing because you were getting this nice representative. And that's what all politicians are. It's important for us to take a look at our reality, because there is no question, while like the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned while he was living in Mecca, and it was very corrupt and had all kinds of oppression in it, he loved his city because that was where he was born. I love my country because that's where I was born. I have traveled the world and I miss my country because I grew up here and I know it very well. I have a cultural affinity to it. And I'm very comfortable because of this First Amendment that I have full freedom and right to be as Muslim as I want to be, and nobody will question me on that from a government standpoint. But at the same time, as a true patriot, I know by knowledge that my country has had oppression built into it since day one, and very quickly political measures were taken, particularly in the since the Great Depression. Measures were taken to create all kinds of systems for permanent oppression. So whether the history of the natives who lived here and their genocidal being wiped out, the Africans who were brought here against their will and treated as subhuman and abused and humiliated and treated as not a intelligent human, but rather as some sort of animal. Or it's women who till this day are treated unfairly. I'm aware of this. So while these political elitists now are in full broad daylight making a mockery of the political system of our country, it's important that we stay focused and that we take a look at issues that we as a people of faith can solve. Because there is a focus that we need to have according to the Quran and the Sunnah. So if we take a look, we will see that a quarter of all American workers are paid less than $10 an hour. That's poverty. That's basically the poverty line. So 25% of all people who have a job in the United States of America are making less than $10 an hour. These are the people that you see every day: cashiers, laborers, fast food workers. All of these people who are they're working. If they stop working, life will be a disaster in this country if they stopped working. And so the system has been made to keep them poor. 40 million American people are living in poverty. It's almost 20% of Americans are living in poverty. This is something that we should address. 21% of minorities are living in poverty. So if you are black or Latino or Native American, you are 20 to 25% poor. If you're white, you are 7 to 8% poor. So, racists will say, that's because white people are superior to colored people. Intellectuals who study the system of this country and how it was formed and how it functions will say, no, the people from the minorities, the system is rigged against their benefit and their best interests. It's fact of science, of knowing how things are. So racism, till this day, is institutionalized policy of our country. Women, over the last 10 years, have went from 77 cents on the dollar to 80, almost 81 cents on the dollar. So if you're a woman, and you have the exact same education and qualifications as a man, you will get paid 80% what he gets paid. This is what it is. Right now, 4 women are going to be told shortly, what I would assume, that even though all 4 of you have all of this evidence and are saying all these things, we still don't care, and we want this guy to be at the highest level of law in this country. He will make the laws as one of 9. That's what they're saying to them, to these women. Someone said, oh, because it's a Democrat. No. Neil Gorsuch, the guy before, is very, very, very super right-wing Republican. They didn't do that to him because it didn't appear that anybody had this issue with him. You see what I'm saying? It's not just because he's Republican and they're Democrat. That can't be because we have one evidence that just happened recently. Neil Gorsuch was given that seat. And the Democrats voted for him to have that seat because even though they differ with him on policy, his background, his record, his education, his record as a judge fits the bill. Right? He just has a different ideological interpretation of the Constitution than them. Which is not the case on this situation. Talking about 4 different people that know things and are saying things, that know people close to him, and they know their lives are going to be ruined because of the extreme people on the other side of the fence. So for us in Charlotte here, when we're talking about racism, segregation, when we're talking about education opportunities, job opportunities, housing opportunities, when we're talking about all these things as Charlotteans, do you know that out of the top 50 populated cities of the country, we are dead last in all of these? Charlotte, North Carolina, out of the top 50 populated countries in the United States of America, is 50th in terms of racial segregation and the effects of poverty and affordable housing and proper and healthy and equal opportunity towards education and work and things like all of that stuff. We are last. The high probability is, if you were born in the hood, in a impoverished place, then you will die like that. And you will probably not live as long as others. These are things that are right in front of our eyes right here. We cannot change Washington, D.C. and these crazy people who are governing our country. We have no way to change that. We have no way to fix any of that. What we can do is we can fix Charlotte, North Carolina. So there are many fronts right now that are happening. In coalition building here in Charlotte, North Carolina, the Quran calls us to do that. تعاونوا على البر والتقوى ولا تعاونوا على الإثم والعدوان. You should cooperate with other people in righteousness and piety and doing what's right. And you should not cooperate with people when it comes to sin and aggression and transgression. So we're called to do this. So, as a Muslim, it is unacceptable to get caught up as a consumerist. It is unacceptable as a believer in the Quran and the Sunnah to wake up and see your ultimate priority is in my work, that I make my money. That's what I do, that's who I am, that's what I'm about. Or my ultimate priority is just to get these grades into school. That's who I am, that's what I'm about. Right? That's what my 100% focus is on that. If you're doing that, then the devil has fooled you. The Quran and the Sunnah are filled with examples about those who are attached to the worldly life of this world versus those who are attached to the hereafter. So in the Quran, each chapter is beginning Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. It's important that not only we know this and have a very, very clear understanding of why they begin like that, that our kids understand that. We got so caught up in our things. Every single youth group and Sunday school I've ever taught in my life, when I ask the kids in there, what does this or that mean from Surah Al-Fatiha, they have no idea. The vast majority of them. I could not tell you. So Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, all things began and exist through that which is known of the divine, primarily that He is beneficent, compassionate, merciful, caring, giving, all of that. Rahmah. All things exist because of Him, because He is these things. Meaning what? You and your life is a manifestation of His mercy and His blessing, His compassion. So Islam becomes two halves as a result of that. The more you get to know Him, and the closer you are to Him, who is compassionate, merciful, caring, the more you feel the obligation to be that to those who do not have it. So if you're living your life and you don't find yourself throughout the day with some knowledge, with some active mission to spread rahmah to the world, then you are disconnected from the Holy Quran and the one who sent it. For sure. You have become a materialist, a consumerist. And Islam becomes some cultural, it becomes like a logo on you. I'm from this one. I come from this religion. This is what I'm labeled as. It's not a real living truth. Islamophobia cannot and will not exist if we understand this point. So the more you know Him, and He is all about rahmah, compassion, mercy, kindness, gentleness, care, concern for the welfare of others, adding value to their life, giving them life. When you're doing that, you're knowing Him and you are close to Him and you are His servant. You're His abd. If you're not doing that, we have to review ourselves. So it's half knowing Him and then half doing His work for the rest of the world. The concept of the people of heaven in the Quran is described as those who have their prayers. As we said, you are close to Him. You are praying. How do you begin? Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. You're understanding who it is that you are talking to, who it is that you serve, who it is that will guide you, what His guidance is about. وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَاكَ, and I'm only sending you Muhammad for one reason. إِلَّا رَحْمَةً لِلْعَالَمِينَ. That's what you're sent to do. To give compassion and mercy to everyone. So the Quran then it says, after your أَلَّا الْمُصَلِّينَ الَّذِينَ هُمْ عَلَى صَلَاتِهِمْ دَائِمُونَ, your first level, getting to know Him, being close to Him, that will now give you the ability and the power. وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ وَالَّذِينَ فِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. The next thing is being close to the people, particularly those who are less fortunate than yourself. The people who have a right that is known in their wealth towards those who do not have. لِلسَّائِلِ, someone who's asking you and they need some help. وَالْمَحْرُومِ, and it's very interesting, the Quran in a few places talks about the one who's stricken with poverty as mahroom, one who's been prevented. Like what we were talking about, the system was built in a way that they were not able to achieve a life of reasonable living status. And Abu Bakr very much agreed with this idea. when he became the leader, he said, الضعيف فيكم قوي عندي حتى أريح عليه حقا إن شاء الله والقوي فيكم ضعيف عندي حتى آخذ حقه منه إن شاء Allah. Abu Bakr understood this concept about systematically the governance and the people of the society should not allow for poverty to exist. So Abu Bakr said, the weak and impoverished among you are strong with me. I'm going to side with you over the poor. Over the rich and the wealthy. Until I can make sure that you're living a standard of living that is comfortable. He's saying that as what? As the head of the government. This is Islam in its purest form. The government makes sure there cannot be poverty. Now I'm asking you, whoever told you there's an Islamic government out there, does anybody believe that? As Abu Bakr as a standard, as the Prophet ﷺ as a standard. There is no such thing as an Islamic government on the planet Earth, and there hasn't been for centuries, in the plural. And that's why we're where we're at, and the way people look at us, how they treat us, our garbled understanding and attitude towards religiosity is all because of this. We are not embracing this point as a society, from top to bottom and bottom to top. It goes both ways. So this is what it's all about. So he said, the strong and powerful and wealthy among you to me are weak, until I know that your right has been taken from you and properly distributed to the others. This is Abu Bakr. This is not Karl Marx. Just so you know, Karl Marx came centuries after him, many. This is our faith. This is what it means to be a believer. There can be no tribalism in our religion. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, لَن تُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى تَرَاحَمُوا. You will not be believers until you interactively work with compassion, mercy, and a mutual concern and care for each other's welfare. قَالُوا كُلُّنَا رَحِيمٌ يَا رَسُولَ اللَّهِ. But we are merciful, we love each other. He said, لَيْسَ ذَاكَ إنه ليس برحمة أحدكم صاحبة ولكنه رحمة الناس رحمة العامة. He said, as is narrated by Ibn al-Haythami in Majma' al-Fawaid, authentically stamped of approval by all the scholars of hadith, he said, it isn't that you're compassionate and caring when you take care of your friend or your family. It's that you go to all of the people you don't know them. This tribalism you had before, we're erasing it. It's a spiritual humanity you are now embracing. A whole new system. The Prophet ﷺ was telling them. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه فإنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. As an institution, we are about sincere worship of God alone, striving towards excellence in character, cultivating an American Muslim identity, working towards an upright Charlotte community. And what we envision what will happen as a result of this is a harmonious, virtuous Charlotte community that appreciates the values and contributions of Muslims because of who we are and what we do in the mission. We're inviting all of you to be part of this. And I know that from day one in this world there is a globalized secularism of individualism and tribalism and materialism, consumerism. All these isms that are the devil's products are doing very well in the stock market of morality in the world. We have to make that audacious jump to become a whole entire community of people connected by faith in scripture and prophetic truth, with fellowship and genuine bonds of diverse connectivity with many skills and backgrounds to help each other to grow as a community. So number one, your take home from today is we must, number one, educate ourselves about our faith and what does the Quran and the Sunnah say about who we are, what we should be about. And then we should educate about our reality that we are now living in and raising a family in, and see where are the priorities and how can we fix that. We are doing this here at MCC. So we'd love for you to come to as much as you can, inshallah. Number 2, bring these concerns and these ideas of our morality and what's wrong with the city and how our morality, you don't have to be like, the Quran says and you must believe. You just say, here's what I know we should be doing. You know? And they'll know that you're a Muslim. They'll appreciate it. You don't have to beat somebody over the head with it. You just invite them to a good moral system. Like, wow, that makes sense. You know what? As a Christian, I think that's what we're supposed to be doing. But guess what? Nobody's doing it. Right? A very small group of people are doing it. And that's why the system is the way it is. So you have to invite your neighbors, your colleagues, your co-workers, your classmates to become part of this educated, morally woke reality. And number 3, we are working on a way and a means for us to be part of actively in a coalition of spreading compassion, justice, and a moral movement that will fix the politics, not of the world, of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I can tell you, I've had private meetings with 2 different city council members, and we are proud to have Mujtaba Muhammad, who inshallah will be very shortly elected as a state senator. And I have been to Raleigh and met our state congressmen and senators, and I formed some good relationships with some of those. And I think there's a lot we can do. There's a lot we can do here. We have actually talking with many pastors and many coalitions that are now in the works to be established. There's a lot to do. There's a lot we can achieve. We have to have that as the priority. How our faith, how being Muslim in Charlotte will fix the problems of Charlotte. That's what we're here and what we're about. That's what this institution was built for. So I ask Allah, Ya Allah, give us your providence, give us the means to success by your power, as you are the most powerful and the all-powerful. We seek your guidance and wisdom. We seek your motivation and inspiration, that we may become your true servants. Ya Allah, don't let Islam become some cultural label. Make it be our sincere dedication and devotion in our heart and mind on the top of our priority list in our daily life. Ya Allah, make our families be attached to spiritual growth and development and the place where that is established. Ya Allah, help us to become a people of fortitude and perseverance, of mutual compassion and benevolence, that we are looking out for the welfare of everyone around us, just like we look out for our own welfare. Ya Allah, make us to become a people who really study and strive to be your servants, who are seeking your favor and your blessing in eternity, seeking to die and be in the hands of your mercy, earning a place in your presence for eternity. Ya Allah, make us a people of righteousness, a people of piety, a people of goodness, a people of scriptural integrity, a people who are following the prophethood and promoting it by word and deed. Ya Allah, send your peace and blessings and mercy upon Prophet Muhammad and all of those who follow him until the day of judgment.